Hello, it's me, Mike, with HPDS. This video will be a reading and study of Exodus chapter 19. Exodus chapter 19. Before I get started, as always, I will read the Lord's Prayer. And it reads, Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever. Amen. All right. And remember, if you remember where we're at, let's see, Exodus 19. This one is called God upon Mount Sinai. But before I talk about that, I'll get into, remember where we're at. Last chapter, Exodus 18, Moses took Jethro's advice for judging the people. So remember that if you take a look at Genesis 18, and prior to that, what we have, obviously, Exodus is obviously Moses and the children of Israel were being oppressed by Pharaoh earlier on in Exodus, starting, in chapters 2, 3, 4, and all that. We come across Moses. Moses murdered a man. He left. He found himself in Midian for about 40 years, where he gets himself married, has a couple of children. Then God sends him back to Egypt to free his people. And of course, there was 10 plagues that it took before Pharaoh would let his people go. And then a few chapters earlier, I want to say back in, 15, I think 14 is when Pharaoh was finally taken away. And they were washed, the crossing of the Red Sea. And since then, they've come across the quail. They've come across manna. There's a few more miracles. There was a battle with the Amalek. There was the rock of Horeb. There was some issues with drinking water and so forth. The people have been grumbling a lot. Then in Exodus 18 basically was, and everybody was getting to be judged. Everybody was coming to inquire of Moses, or to Moses to inquire of God. And Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, had made some suggestions, and Moses took that advice, and now there's a more what we would know as like a court system is set in place. So let me bring up my information. Okay. Nope. Okay. We have Exodus 19, God upon Mount Sinai. So what we're looking for in this particular chapter is it's another short chapter, about only 25 verses. In verses 1 through 2, we're going to see the children of Israel at Sinai. Verses 3 to 6, God is going to be speaking to Moses again. And in verses 7 through 9, we'll see the children of Israel's response to what's going on here. And then verses 10 through 15, the people have to be sanctified, so they sanctify the people. And 16 through 19, we're going to see that they're going to meet God at Mount Sinai. So remember, they've actually come across God. He's been some clouds. He was a pillar of fire by night, and a pillar of clouds by day. So they were already following him, and they were seeing him. And remember, when he looked upon Egypt, Pharaoh and the Egyptians, they got really scared. Remember, he looked at them. So he's showing himself physically. But it's not the way we normally, God's physical form is clearly not like a man's physical form, just yet. He comes, eventually he sends Jesus, his son, and that's the whole point of Jesus. But right now, his physical form is what we would think of as natural phenomenon. He's a pillar of fire, pillar of clouds, and then when he comes in verses 16 through 19, we're also going to see some incredible things as how they come across him out up there on that mountain. And then verses 20 through 25, we're going to see that God calls Moses to the mount. And we'll see, we'll explain, we'll come across what exactly that all means. So, like usual, I'll go ahead and read through the chapter. And then afterwards, I'll reread it and I'll kind of explain what's going on and give some more insight, per the Holy Spirit. So let's get into it. Exodus 19 reads, "In the 3rd month, when the children of Israel were gone forth out of the land of Egypt, the same day came they into the wilderness of Sinai. For they were departed from Rephidim, and were come to the desert of Sinai, and had pitched in the wilderness, and there Israel camped before the mount. And Moses went up unto God, and the Lord called unto him out of the mountain, saying, Thus shalt thou say to the house of Jacob, and tell the children of Israel, Ye have seen what I did unto the Egyptians, and how I bare you on eagle's wings, and brought you unto myself. Now therefore, if ye will obey my voice indeed, and keep my covenant, then ye shall be a peculiar treasure unto me above all people, for all the earth is mine. And ye shall be unto me a kingdom of priests, and a holy nation. These are the words which thou shalt speak unto the children of Israel. And Moses came and called for the elders of the people, and laid before their faces all these words which the Lord commanded him. And all the people answered together and said, All that the Lord hath spoken we will do. And Moses returned the words of the people unto the Lord. And the Lord said unto Moses, Lo, I come unto thee in a thick cloud, that the people may hear when I speak with thee, and believe thee forever. And Moses told the words of the people unto the Lord. And the Lord said unto Moses, Go unto the people, and sanctify them today and tomorrow, and let them wash their clothes. And be ready against the 3rd day, for the 3rd day the Lord will come down in the sight of all the people upon Mount Sinai. And thou shalt set bounds unto the people round about, saying, Take heed to yourselves, that ye go not up into the mount, or touch the border of it. Whosoever toucheth the mount shall surely be put to death. There shall not an hand touch it, but he shall surely be stoned or shot through, whether it be beast or man, it shall not live. When the trumpet soundeth long, they shall come up to the mount. And Moses went down from the mount unto the people, and sanctified the people, and they washed their clothes. And he said unto the people, Be ready against the 3rd day, come not at your wives. And it came to pass on the 3rd day in the morning, that there were thunders and lightnings and thick cloud upon the mount, and the voice of the trumpet exceeding loud, so that all the people that was in the camp trembled. And Moses brought forth the people out of the camp to meet with God, and they stood at the nether part of the mount. And Mount Sinai was altogether on a smoke, because the Lord descended upon it in fire, and the smoke thereof ascended as the smoke of a furnace, and the whole mount quaked greatly. And when the voice of the trumpet sounded long, and waxed louder and louder, Moses spake, and God answered him by a voice. And the Lord came down upon Mount Sinai on the top of the mount, and the Lord called Moses up to the top of the mount, and Moses went up. And the Lord said unto Moses, Go down, charge the people, lest they break through until the Lord to gaze, and many of them perish. And let the priests also which come near to the Lord sanctify themselves, lest the Lord break forth upon them. And Moses said unto the Lord, The people cannot come up to the Mount Sinai, for thou chargest us, saying, Set bounds about the mount, and sanctify it. And the Lord said unto him, Away, get thee down, and thou shalt come up, thou and Aaron with thee. But let not the priests and the people break through to come up unto the Lord, lest he break forth upon them. So Moses went down unto the people, and spake unto them. All right, so that was Exodus 19 in its entirety. Exodus 19. And again, let's take a look at what we came across. Basically, what we came across was um, the children of Israel at Sinai. So the first couple of verses, 1 through 2. And then we also see all that God speaks through Moses in verses 3 to 6. And then the children respond. So there's a covenant being made in this particular chapter. So that's what's going on here. And then, so when they say they're going to, in 7 through 9, the children of Israel, they respond, they say, oh yeah, we're going to do everything that God says. God tells them to sanctify the people, and he tells them to go clean your clothes, and for 3 days, don't come at your wives. So be, basically be single. Everybody, this is something kind of interesting that this is what he chooses. He says, everybody be clean. And being clean means don't even be with your spouses. Don't be with your spouses. That's just, be holy. Be holy. And being holy means being single, and everybody is separate in God's eyes. Everybody is single in God's eyes. Everybody is held like accountable and responsible for themselves. It's kind of an interesting way, is the way I come across it. And then, of course, in verses 16 through 19, the people meet with God at Mount Sinai, and God tells them some things. And in verses 20 through 25, God calls Moses and Aaron back up to the mountain. So that's what's going on. And remember, this is all something interesting there. God has saved these people. Remember, he saved them from Egypt. He gave them a bunch of water. He gave them a bunch of food. Basically, right now what's been going on is that everybody's been listening to Moses, and Moses has been talking to God, but none of the people have really been hearing any of this. So this is kind of something that now suddenly a great miracle happens, and everybody's going to hear him. Everybody hears him. Everybody hears him, even though he is only talking to Moses, basically. And so it's a lot of proof that they've been grumbling against Moses. Remember a few chapters back, Moses and Aaron, why are you grumbling against us? You're grumbling against God. And, they clearly were grumbling against Moses, not knowing that they were grumbling against God. And so now God is saying, look, I have come specifically to talk to Moses for you people. And here's your proof. And this is this mountain. So let me go ahead and read this one more time. And let's make sure I get this set properly. And let's see what the Holy Spirit brings to this conversation here. And it says, in the 3rd month, when the children of Israel were gone forth out of the land of Egypt, the same day. So this is, once again, the timing is, it says in the 3rd month. And so remember, the 1st month is April. And we did kind of go over that in the past, back when they were learning about the Passover, which was, I want to say again, it was Exodus 14. I don't think it was Exodus 13. I think it was something like Exodus 14. Got a bunch of notes here, but I'm not going to go there. But they were told that April is the 1st month, and I made remarks that for some reason in today's modern society, the people of Israel celebrated, and it kind of has a roving schedule. So sometimes it's in March, sometimes it's in April, but God is saying to keep it in April for some reason. And I guess that's where, they want to say they know what the real months are, but I don't, the calendar seems pretty set to me. Anyway, nonetheless, the 3rd month should be something like what? So April, May, June. So it'd be sometime in June, I suppose. Or it could also be, maybe it's like 3 months later. So that'd be, May, June, July. I don't know. I'm going to say June. It sounds like it's around June. So it says the same day they came into the wilderness of Sinai. So the same day, 3 months. So basically it would be what? The 14th is when they were cast out. That's when the 14th happened, and then the 14th through the 21st, they're supposed to keep the Passover. And so I think when they leave Egypt would be the 14th. So it'd be something like June 14th is what this is kind of trying to say. And once again, I'm just kind of going based off of what I can understand. But it seems like around June, the middle of the month of June 14th or so, they come into the wilderness of Sinai. And so I've been using this map right here. There's a couple of maps that I have. This wilderness of Sinai is what it's calling itself, right? They came into the wilderness of Sinai. So again, you can see where they've come from. They started out here. If you can see my little hand over here, they started off in Egypt. They came, remember, this is where they had the crossing of, they camped right here because God said, hey, camp here in the wilderness, or, and they'll think that Pharaoh will chase after you, thinking that the land has swallowed you up or something along those lines. But they cross the river. Pharaoh and them die. Pharaoh and his army die. They come out here, and remember they were attacked, and also Jethro visited, and now so they're in this wilderness of Sinai, and they're coming up to this Mount Sinai right here, and this is just on this map, of course. I've come across so many different concepts of some people want to say Mount Sinai is right here. Some people think it's over here. I don't really know. I've never really seen the geography, and I'm not going to entirely Google map it right now. Maybe if I ever get interested, I will. But apparently Mount Sinai is on this map right here, and there's a mountain up there, and perhaps if I was able to make it out there, and someday God will let me go out there, and we'll go see it all, because we're supposed to go see it all. It's a holy place. It's where God came and spoke to the people. And so, but anyway, this is about where they're at. They're not in Egypt. They're not in Midian. They're not yet in the land of Canaan up here. That's going to be their homeland. This is the wilderness of Sinai. That's where they're at now. So, let's see. For they were departed from Rephidim, and they were come to the desert of Sinai, and had pitched in the wilderness, and there Israel camped before the mount. So you see, that's just basically what this is saying. That's where they're at. Rephidim, Mount Sinai. That's where they're at. It's a pretty, these are the maps, and this apparently has the locations, and that's where they're at, according to this map. Ye have seen what I did. So he tells the children, what he tells them? Okay, and Moses went up unto God. So they're at the mountain, and Moses went up unto God, and the Lord called unto him out of the mountains. So he's calling, obviously, from this mountain. He's saying, thus shalt thou say to the house of Jacob, and tell the children of Israel. So remember, he made this covenant long ago with Abraham, telling him, when Abraham back in Genesis walked across this land, he made it all the way to Egypt, remember? And then from Egypt he left. Remember him and Sarah, they had that where he was telling everybody that Sarah was his sister, and Pharaoh was trying to basically take her into his harem or something. And anyway, so they left there, but when they left rich as well. They plundered Egypt as well, Abraham and Sarah. And Abraham and Sarah were, they were a pretty mighty people. He had a bunch of, you remember, I think it says he had like 318 or something men that were able to fight at any given time. So he had a pretty big army. He had a pretty big group of people with him that he was in charge of, that he was basically their leader. And he was, we could call him, cavemen or prehistoric people or whatever you want to call them, but they lived a rough, hard life. He did take over some lands himself with bows, I believe. And he leads it to, anyway. So he's talking to Jacob here, and if you remember Jacob is the one that was changed his name to Israel, and there was another covenant made with him. And remember, Jacob actually wrestled with God one night, and he made God bless him. So he like fought it out of God, which is what God is telling him. Like Jacob was a mighty man, and I came across him one night, and he wrestled with me, and we wrestled all night, and he wouldn't let me go until I blessed him. And then when he blessed him, remember his hip socket went kind of out of joint or something. But it was a blessing, which is interesting. But that's what's going on here. He's telling them. So this is the start of a covenant. I have some little notes about this. Some people call this what is known as the Sinaitic covenant. I don't know, but it's the covenant on Mount Sinai. And it does go for a few more chapters. Basically, like until like I want to say chapter 24 or somewhere around. He's going to be giving them some, what we would know. Some people want to call these like the 10 Commandments in the next couple of chapters. I think in next chapter 20, some people call that the 10 Commandments, but I actually count a few more than that. But nonetheless, there's quite a few commandments. I don't really subscribe to the 10 Commandment until later on when there's something else going on. But in Exodus, there's a few things that happen before we come across the real 10 Commandments, is from my understanding. But nonetheless, this is a covenant, and we're going to see here, and that's why in verses 1 through 3, in verses 1 through 2, they were at Sinai, but 3 through 6 is where he's speaking to them at Moses. So here he is, he's at them, but I meant in verse 9, 7 through 9 is when the children of Israel's response, and they make that response to that covenant. So let's see, keep going. And so he's up there, and God calls him, and he tells them, and he's just reaffirming, like I said, he's reaffirming all the way back to Israel, because Israel was the last time God came and made some sort of a covenant with them, and now he's making another thing with Moses and them. So he's just really expanding on the previous covenants he's made with these people, and he's thus proving his immortality. Because these people all know that they die in a lifetime, and everybody's dying in under 120 years. So Moses dies around 120 years, and so he lived again, basically as old as God would let them. And so at this point, the people were dying probably much younger, just like in today's age. They're probably dying at 50, 60, 70, 80 years old. Most of them not even making it that long. But with God, they were probably living quite older than that, because I think even Joshua lives quite a bit, all the way up to 100 and something years old. So they're living, God's giving them pretty good sustenance in this time. And when you have good sustenance, your people tend to live a lot longer. But nonetheless, they probably had just the same lifespans that we had. And they knew that at this point, Israel was some 430 years prior to that, and they were just keeping records, and God is able to speak with them again. And so he's just reaffirming this covenant, showing that he's immortal, so that these people could keep it in their histories, which is what they're doing right now. Ye have seen what I did unto the Egyptians, and how I bare you on eagle's wings, and brought you unto myself. So he's telling Moses this, that you're going to tell these children this, that you saw what I did to the Egyptians and how I've been protecting you, right? And he goes, now therefore, if ye will obey my voice indeed and keep my covenant, then ye shall be a peculiar treasure unto me above all the people, for all the earth is mine. So he's telling them, and this is, getting into the whole, what it is to keep like a covenant. He's saying, look, if you're going to listen to me, and you keep my covenant, keep my laws and my, what we're about to agree to, then you're going to be a peculiar treasure unto me above all the people, for all the earth is mine. So he's telling them outright, everything here belongs to me. I am God. Like, I am king of all of this. I have created it. It is mine. I've conquered it, so forth, etc. Whatever you want to think of it, however you need to think about it, that's the case. I own it all. You're in my house, is what God is telling them. But if you listen to me and you keep my covenant, you're going to be a peculiar treasure. You're going to be a treasure. A treasure, first off. A peculiar treasure is interesting, peculiar word, obviously. So he's saying, if you listen to me, you're going to be something special, very special in the earth. And he goes, and ye shall be unto me a kingdom of priests, and an holy nation. These are the words which thou shalt speak unto the children of Israel. So that's what God is speaking to Moses in verses 3 through 6 here. He goes, you're going to be a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. And you're going to listen to my commandments, and you're going to be special, because all the world belongs to me. It's mine. It's mine. That's what God is saying. And so the next couple of verses, we're going to see how they respond. And Moses came and called for the elders of the people and laid before their faces all these words which the Lord commanded him. So obviously he's telling them, all right, so here's what God tells me. And he tells them, and they've been listening to him this whole time. So obviously they knew that Moses was special. Moses was obviously commanding these people and showing them these great miracles, and they didn't quite understand anything other than what Moses was telling them. And Moses, and keep in mind, there's almost 1 million people running around here, and Moses is just one guy, and they didn't have like newspapers and televisions and phones, so they were all doing it by word of mouth. And on top of that, who knows if people had ever really seen Moses up close. A lot of these people had to see him from afar, from a crowd, from somewhere in the back of a crowd or in the middle of a crowd, and so if they'd even heard his voice, because I imagine, they couldn't really hear him when he'd speak, from so far away. Unless people, I've heard of people talking about how, you have to have like callers calling out after you. So it was hard without modern technology that we have speakers and everything too, that he didn't have all of this. So these people were grumbling against Moses this whole time because obviously they may not have had the best experience, and the best trust instilled in other people. So they didn't really necessarily trusted the word of other people. Let alone this Moses character who they probably never met and could barely see, didn't have glasses, and, kind of blind back here, can't see you all the way up there. I don't know what you look like. You're just a squiggly line as far as I'm concerned. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if that makes any sense, but that's what's going on here. But he tells the elders, and the elders kind of pass it along, and everybody tries to pass it along as best they can. I mean, obviously they were able to do it pretty effectively, because they did set up a court system and all that, but nonetheless, it's still, complicated. They were able to do it, and they figured it out. God was with them, but nonetheless, they're all kind of having this concern here. And so all the people answered together, and they said, all that the Lord had spoken, we will do. And Moses returned the words of the people unto the Lord. So they said, yeah, we believe you so far. I mean, as far as you could tell, we could tell you're with God. God is with you. We believe you, Moses. And if he says for us to listen to him, and we'll be a special people among all the earth, then yeah, we're going to go ahead and say, yeah, of course. I mean, how can we not say no? Yeah, we'll do everything he says. And so he goes up to him and he tells him, all right, everybody's agreeing. They want to do what you want us to do. And the Lord said unto Moses, lo, I come unto thee in a thick cloud, that the people may hear when I speak with thee, and believe thee forever. And Moses told the words of the people unto the Lord. So this is where he's getting into, all right, now he goes, I'm going to do something. I'm going to speak so loud that everybody's going to hear me talking to you. And like I was just kind of saying, I mean, now he's, even though they were never able to see him or hear, they never, put yourself in the shoes of these people. They heard about you, Moses. We've heard about you, Moses, and you're over there talking to God and you're performing these miracles, but I've never heard God talk to anybody. I've never heard God talk to you. I don't know what you're talking about. I've never heard it. I've never seen it. I'm just believing what you tell me. And so now God is telling the people, look, I'm going to speak so loud that everybody's going to hear me. And they're going to believe you. And they may not hear you speak to me, but they're going to hear me respond to your words. And you're going to go back down there and you're going to tell them what and so it's going to be like an interesting, like I said, he's really playing out, showing us the limitations of humanity, while at the same time showing his strength over us. So he knows that the limitations of humanity is this, this ability to be heard from long distances. I mean, we know it to this day. It's, if you can be heard from long distances, then it makes you obviously more useful, I would say, or more powerful than if you couldn't hear from long distances. So in a sense, I mean, you have I could be heard from very long distances with this single hold on, make sure I get this. Okay, yeah, I got it. Oops. I could be heard from very far away from, with this internet, with these microphones and so forth, but these people couldn't be heard very far away except, by the power of their own voice. They didn't have, again, modern technology, but God is, recognizing this fact from them, and he's going to speak really loud and everybody's going to hear him, and it's going to be an incredible miracle. And that's what's going on here. And that's what the big takeaway I feel is of this chapter is that everybody is going to hear God, and it's something strange that they've never come across. And so he goes and he tells them, of course, and Moses, all right, but this is what everybody's saying. And the Lord said unto Moses, go unto the people and sanctify them today and tomorrow, and let them wash their clothes. So that's what he's telling them. So go tell them now, when you get back down there, go tell them to sanctify them days and wash their clothes. So remember, get clean, everybody, and be ready against the third day. So that third day is what, like I said, something like June 17th or something is what I'm thinking. For the third day, the Lord will come down in the sight of all the people upon Mount Sinai. He goes, so everybody go get clean. Follow and he's asking you, please follow what I tell you. And it's something simple. Go get washed for the next 3 days and sanctify everybody. Don't do much. Just basically sit around, praying, only doing enough work to basically eat for yourselves. Don't be with your spouses. Don't do anything dirty. Don't do too much work. Don't do any work. Just, that's what he's saying. Get clean. Go sanctify yourselves. Just go be in prayer to God right now for the next 3 days. It's a simple commandment. It's a simple, please go do this for 3 days is what God is saying. And if you listen to me, you'll be a peculiar treasure. All right. They said, well, I'll do it. We'll do it. I'll do it. That's what we say. And be ready against the third day, because then on that third day, he's coming down on the mountain. And verse 12, so once again, where are we at? We're in verses 10 through 15 is sanctifying the people. And thou shalt set bounds unto the people round about, saying, take heed to yourselves that ye go not up into the mount, or touch the border of it. Whosoever toucheth the mount shall surely be put to the end. So now here's something. So he also tells them, now here's some serious warnings too. Don't get too close to the mountain. Don't touch the border of the mountain. Whoever touches the mountain you're not holy. You will die if you touch the mountain. So stay off the mountain is what he's saying. Don't touch the mountain. Stay around the border of it. Just don't touch it. So this mountain is pretty obvious, like when you're touching the mountain. You should know it's a pretty obvious mountain. Some mountains are just like that, and this is one of those mountains. So when they get to that mountain, they're not supposed to touch it. And so whoever touches it, you're going to be put to death. There shall not an hand touch it, but he shall surely be stoned or shot through, whether it be beast or man, it shall not live. When the trumpet soundeth long, they shall come up to the mount. So he's telling them, if you touch it, you're going to get killed. You're going to be stoned. You're going to get shot through. You're going to get like an arrow, or somebody's going to kill you with rocks. So that means, so not only, so that he's telling, this is kind of like a multi-fold command. He's saying, first off, people, don't touch it. Second off, Moses, make sure you've got some holy, some good people out there that are willing to follow this, get your army out there. And this army is going to protect this mountain. If anybody comes and touches this mountain, who's going to stone them or shoot them through? I mean, you clearly don't want to see God do it. So Moses, Joshua, get up there. It's probably Joshua again. Joshua, I would imagine Moses, get some people up there and protect this mountain. If anybody comes up to it and they try to, get up on the mountain, you go ahead and kill them. Whether it be a beast or a man, nobody's allowed to touch it. So this is something strange. This is holiness. No, not even an animal. Don't let an animal wander up on this mountain, or you're going to all kill it. It shall not live. And then he also says, when the trumpet soundeth long, they shall come up to the mount. So basically, when you hear the loud noise, though, the loud trumpet, everybody, you're going to come up to the mountain, but don't touch it. but everybody come close to it to come look at it, to come see what's about to happen. And Moses went down from the mount unto the people and sanctified the people, and they washed their clothes. So here we are sanctifying themselves, washing their clothes. And then for 3 days they do, what all that happens. And he tells the people what's supposed to go on. And he said unto the people, be ready against the third day, come not at your wives. So just like that, be clean for the next 3 days. And then that's 10 through 15 is the sanctifying of the people. And so now we're going to go into 16 to 19 where they actually meet God now. So and it came to pass on the third day in the morning that there were thunders and lightnings and a thick cloud upon the mount, and the voice of the trumpet exceeding loud, so all the people that was in the camp trembled. So suddenly in the morning, here it comes. It's like a storm. God comes as a storm. He comes upon the people like a storm. There's thunder, lightning, a thick cloud upon the mountains. Everybody could see this. And the voice of the trumpet exceeding loud, so all the people that was in. So this was some very loud. Everybody could hear it. And they weren't even on the mountain. They were just kind of close to the mountain. And again, if you know what a mountain looks like and how big a mountain can be, you know how you can camp pretty close by and still be able to see it. And they saw the thunders and lightnings and a cloud come upon the mountain, and they were able to hear the trumpet coming from this cloud, this mountain. So it was very scary for everybody. And so they were trembling. And Moses brought forth the people out of the camp to meet with God, and they stood at the nether part of the mount. So basically that's just going on. What is this nether? Moses brought forth the people out of the camp to meet with God. So they come out and they stood at the nether part of the mount. So I guess just at the base of the mount, I guess is what I would imagine that perhaps if I read that in a different version, that would make some, but I don't know what the nether part of a mount is. I assume that just kind of means at the base of the mount, not where you're not really touching it, but anyway, so that's where they're at. And Moses brought them close to the mountain, basically, and that's where they were able to see him, and they could see all this and hear him. And Mount Sinai was altogether on a smoke, because the Lord descended upon it in fire, and the smoke thereof ascended as the smoke of a furnace, and the whole mount quaked greatly. So this is impressive. Not only is it a normal storm, like we know storms, and they would have known storms, that when you hear a storm, you think rain. It says water. You're more afraid of a flood, but God came not so what we know as should be coming as water. He came as in fire. And so he descended upon it in fire, and the smoke thereof ascended as the smoke of a furnace. So he's coming like something incredible, like a firestorm, and he's making the whole mount. So he is coming and showing his power, just easy power for him, just and it's something incredible to these people that they're making them something they've never seen before, something that's scary. It's almost like it's a volcano, and of course it's not. I'm not gonna say that's what it is, because that's what the people of some of these scientist people would like you to believe. Oh, it's a volcano, all right. Sounds like a volcano, but that's not what's going on here. God is coming like it's something strange, and they know it's something strange. It's not a volcano, it's something different, even though right now it's kind of resembling a volcano, and that's probably what it could have looked like a volcano was going off, but God was making a regular mountain into a volcano. But anyway, and when the voice trumpeted and sounded longer and waxed louder and louder, Moses spake, and God answered him by a voice. So of course, so it gets louder, and and they're talking to each other. Now you can see the conversation here, and so that's why in verses 20 through 25, that's where we get where God calls Moses to the mount. And the Lord came down upon Mount Sinai on the top of the mount, and the Lord called Moses up to the top of the mount, and Moses went up. So obviously everybody could hear this. He's saying something like, "Come on, Moses, get up here." And the Lord said unto Moses, so now he's telling him, and everybody can hear this conversation. Remember, everybody can hear this conversation. And the Lord And the Lord said unto Moses, Go down, charge the people, lest they break through unto the Lord to gaze, and many of them perish. So he's telling them right out so everybody hears him. So if you didn't believe him the past 3 days, I'm going to go ahead and repeat it for you. And he says, don't let any of the people come through or else they're going to die. Well, obviously they're going to die because he's coming on them like a firestorm on this mountain with earthquake. There's no way they're going to survive that. So don't get too close to me or else you're going to die. Look at me. I'm coming as a volcano looking thing right now, a volcano looking guy. This is my physical form right now. You can't even, it's just smoke and fires and it's thunders and lightnings and earthquakes. This whole mountain is shaking. Don't touch it. You're going to die. Obviously. It's like saying don't run into the fire. You're going to die. And let the priests also which come near to the Lord sanctify themselves, lest the Lord break forth upon them. So he's saying, so now bring all the priests also which come near. Make sure they all get sanctified or else I'm going to break forth upon them. I'm going to kill them with this, I'll be able to jump at them. If I touch them, I'll break forth upon them and they'll die. So make sure all the priests, don't let them come out, don't come touch them, and so forth and all that. And Moses said unto the Lord, the people cannot come up to Mount Sinai, for thou chargest us, saying, set us bounds about the mount and sanctify. So now he's talking. So who knows if the people can hear this? The people probably cannot hear this. He's over there. How could they hear this? He's probably yelling into a firestorm. He's yelling into like think of yourself if you're out there in a storm and you're just yelling into the storm. How many people could really hear you? They probably couldn't hear him, but they could only hear God's response is what I would imagine. And Moses said unto the Lord, the people, Moses tells them, oh yeah, we already did that. You told me, so I got bounds about the mountain and sanctified. So we made sure nobody's up on it. We got the army out there. Nobody can touch the mountain. We've got, we've sanctified and everybody's been sanctified. And that's what he's saying. We already did that, God, even though, and God is just making sure he repeats it for everybody to know, just in case you didn't believe it and you wanted to go up there and touch the mountain because you're some sort of weird little, strange, mindset. Don't do it. And so that's what happened. And Moses just tells them, oh yeah, we already secured it. We believe you. And the Lord said unto him, away, get thee down, and thou shalt come up, thou and Aaron with thee. But let not the priests and the people break through to come up unto the Lord, lest he break forth upon them. And Moses went down unto the people and spake unto them. And so that's what's going on is he goes up there and he's in this storm looking thing. And the people probably can't hear Moses, but they could hear God talking to them. And so God tells them what to do. And then Moses says, this, and so then he says, and then God tells him, all right, go down, and then you're going to come up, you and Aaron with you, but don't let anybody else come out, or else I'm going to kill them. So they're walking through this storm. Moses is walking through this like firestorm, this earthquake. He's alive, even though he probably shouldn't be. A normal person would die, and that's exactly what God is saying. God is showing like, look at what I can do, the power that I have. This is something that you look at and you know that, hey, if I walk into that firestorm on that earthquaking mountain up there, I'll probably die. That's what but Moses walked straight up there and he was walking straight through it. And then God tells him, all right, go down and bring up Aaron, but nobody else, or else I'll kill them. You two can walk through the storm, but nobody else will. So he's actually, once again, and you kind of hear it in today's world where you come across inspirational kind of quotes, God will, put you through the storm. Well, this is kind of where, more than just the storm that Jesus Christ went through. Look at this storm that Moses and Aaron are going to be walking through. Remember, that's a big deal about this chapter is that God came, and there's another great miracle that this is why 4,000 years later, we're still celebrating the Passover. It's still going. This world remembers what these people did. And it was so important because these people knew that it was important, that it was not some sort of crazy. They knew what they're talking about. They lived out there. They knew what they were talking about. They weren't stupid. They may not have had all the technological advances that we have today, but they still knew an impossibility when they saw it. And that was an impossibility, the storm that Moses walked through and this voice that they heard, and they were all able to hear God talking, and God was telling them directly, hey, Moses, get back down there and make sure you only bring you and Aaron. Everybody else will die if they walk through that storm. So don't let them do it. But come up to the top of the mountain. And so then Moses went right back down to them. And so think about how, I don't know what this mount looks like and how long it takes Moses to get up there and to get back down. But I imagine it's got to be at least a couple of hours of hiking, right? A few hours of hiking maybe. I don't know. I've never been there. It'd be nice to go to see what it looks like. But it's something incredible that these people are all witnessing. And it's not something that just happened over the course of, it's taking me maybe about an hour to read through this and do this video. And I doubt it took them less than, I imagine when they heard that voice and they heard him talking to God, it would have been like abrupt and it's just a simple few sentences, right? And then you had to wait for Moses to come all the way back down. And then Moses had to say, so this is what God just said. And everybody would have to tell him, yeah, we all just heard what God said. Of course we know what God just said. Oh, okay, well, I'm going to tell you anyway. This is what I heard. And they, and then they tell him something and he goes back up. He's going to go back up with Aaron in the next few chapters. And obviously he's going to get some commandments coming up and they're going to get some laws and everybody is going to be hearing the laws. So remember in the last chapter, chapter 18, Jethro was talking about, hey, we all need to teach us the laws. You need to teach good men the laws. And so now God is going to come out and directly tell everybody the laws, and he's doing it in what we know as a supernatural way. And it's incredible, and these people kept records of it, and they knew it was incredible, and they knew they were talking to God, and that's why they kept these records for our benefit, because God was telling them how things work in this world. So that is Exodus chapter 19 in its entirety, and I'm going to go ahead and end this video here. Exodus 19, once again, let's just go over the review of it. What was it? It was a chapter in which God actually came to them upon Mount Sinai. God upon Mount Sinai. And he spoke, the children of Israel show up there finally at this mountain. God tells them, hey, this is what you got to do. And God, if you want to be a special treasure, I'm going to make you guys like a nation of priests. And you're going to be a special treasure because I own this whole world. It all belongs to me. It's my world. I can do in it what I want. And to prove it, sanctify your people and I'll prove it to you. Okay, they sanctify them a few days. Then they get back into the mount. They meet God at Mount Sinai. He shows up, thunders, lightnings, cloud. He comes on the mountain as fire. There's smoke everywhere. It looks like a furnace. The mountain is quaking. They hear really loud trumpets. And God says, come on up, Moses. And Moses goes up there and he says, hey, make sure you don't let anybody touch the mountain or they're going to die. And of course, Moses tells them, oh yeah, we already put the army down there. Nobody's going to come up here. There's no way anybody can come up here. Even though Moses was walking through it, no problem, and then he tells them, all right, go back down there and bring Aaron up with you, but don't let anybody else come up here or else they're going to die. And that's what Moses, and so that's where this chapter leaves. It ends right there where Moses goes back down there to go talk to these people. And we'll see in the next few chapters what exactly happens beyond that point. So if you're watching this video, I'd like to just say, God bless you. I pray that we all bless Jesus Christ and that Jesus Christ blesses all of us. And if you like this video, go ahead and if you liked what I'm doing, please like and subscribe to this video and channel for more chapter by chapter Bible study. Amen.